Ride the signal through the unknown. This is the cryptic current.
The air in their bedroom thickened with a scent so sweet it clung to the back of his throat. It was the fragrance of overripe fruit left to rot in a sealed jar, a cloying perfume that felt sticky against the skin. Joy watched from the doorway, paralyzed, as the scent seemed to pour from his pores while he slept. By morning, his temples throbbed with a pressure that made the light feel like needles. He described it not as pain, but as a presence, something ancient and patient unfurling inside his skull. The doctors found nothing. The scans were clear, but the sweet smell remained, a ghost in the air of their home. And then, the whispers started. Not from him, from the walls, from the space just behind his eyes. They spoke of a door, long forgotten, and a key made of scent. The scent clung to them like overripe fruit, teetering on the edge of decay. Joy would smell her own child's hair and recoil, a knot of unease tightening in her gut. Doctors stared at scans, their faces etched with professional bewilderment at the impossible readings. A local paper would later call it a miracle, but for Joy, that gift carried the sticky, metallic scent of dread. For years, I believed I was losing my mind, because I could perceive what no one else could. The scent of decay within a living human body. This is Joy Milner, in her garden in Nottingham. A picture of ordinary life, bathed in English sunshine. For most of her life in Nottingham, Joy was just a regular mom, a devoted wife, with simple pleasures. Gardening, long walks with her dogs, and an unnaturally sensitive nose. She could detect souring milk days before the expiry date, or sense the creeping damp in a wall long before any stain betrayed it. This hyper-awareness was a persistent, low-grade nuisance, an unwanted gift that tinged her peaceful world with a constant, subtle alarm. Little did she know, this very sensitivity would soon attune her to a presence in her home that had nothing to do with spoiled food or rising damp. But in her mid-40s, after her husband John's minor surgery, something shifted. A new, persistent odor clung to him. It wasn't sweat or his usual soap. It was something deeper, something that carried the faint metallic tang of ozone and decay. Joy lay rigid in the marital bed, the once familiar scent of her husband John now a thick, musky pall in the dark. It was an unpleasant, cloying odor that seemed to cling to the very air. She had tried everything, changing their detergent, buying him new fragrances, but the scent persisted. It wasn't soap or cologne she was smelling anymore. It was something else entirely. I asked him, softly, if he was all right. He insisted he was fine, but that odor, it was emanating from him, from his very skin. Joy's world became a gallery of phantom odors. A coworker reeked of sharp ammonia. Her own sister carried the faint, sour ghost of stale beer. Paranoia took root, whispering that these scents were the first fractures in her sanity. She began to withdraw, haunted by the fear she was developing a rare, olfactory psychosis. Joy's isolation became absolute. How could I possibly explain that her scent now carried the sickly sweet tang of decay? I began avoiding embraces, maintaining a careful distance that felt like miles of empty space. The air between us grew thick with that unmistakable odor ozone, and something faintly metallic, like old blood. In that moment, a cold certainty settled in my bones. This was the beginning of the end. This is how I lose my mind. The breaking point came with her friend, Sarah, over coffee. An overwhelming scent, rancid and buttery like spoiled popcorn, assaulted her senses. Her eyes began to water, a silent, physical betrayal of the dread taking root. Under the table, my fingers pinched my nose shut. The odor was so potent, it triggered waves of nausea. Before I could stop myself, the words tumbled out. Sarah, I'm sorry, but have you changed your diet? There's this smell. Her face immediately fell, a visible hurt flashing in her eyes. The air between us grew thick and uncomfortable. Of course she was wounded. And in that moment, I knew I'd crossed a line from which there was no easy return. A month later, Sarah received a devastating diagnosis: early-stage ovarian cancer. After successful treatment, the musky odor vanished completely. Joy was gripped by a profound horror as a terrifying pattern emerged. That same musky smell now clung to her husband, John. Years later, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Medical research confirmed that people with Parkinson's emit a distinct, musky odor from their skin, caused by a change in sebum. Joy had detected that scent a full decade before his first tremor. Joy wasn't crazy. The air itself had whispered the truth to her long before medicine could speak it. She was a medical enigma that defied all known science. The University of Edinburgh's top researchers were called in, their credentials unable to explain what they witnessed. They conducted blind tests in soundproof chambers, isolating every variable except the inexplicable phenomenon itself. Each result carried the metallic scent of ozone and left their hands trembling with a cold, creeping dread. Joy would press the t-shirts to her face, inhaling deeply. The air in the lab grew heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and the faint, metallic tang of illness. The scientists watched, skeptical, as she sorted the garments of the sick from the well. Her accuracy was staggering, a success rate that defied chance. a silent whisper of diagnosis on the fabric. Her olfactory receptors detected biochemical whispers our machines remained deaf to. A profound relief washed over me, quickly weighted by an oppressive burden. Now I knew, with a certainty that felt more like a curse, the nameless dread had finally crystallized into scents I could identify. And they were all bad news. Word spread through her community. First, as a bizarre rumor whispered behind closed doors. Then, it twisted into a desperate, clinging hope that smelled of cold earth and ozone. People began coming to her, their movements furtive, their fear a palpable, sticky presence in the air. Mike, a friend of my son's, stood rigid in my living room, a faint but unmistakable scent of apples clinging to his skin. He asked me to check him, his voice tight with a dread he couldn't name. I leaned in, the air growing thick, and inhaled gently near his neck. As I stepped back, my face fell. The confirmation was there, a sweet, ghostly odor marking what was to come. I insisted he see a doctor immediately to check his blood sugar. He was young, athletic, a runner, and didn't believe a word of it. But to humor me, he finally went in for the test. What that test would reveal, neither of us could have imagined. Mike hovered at the precipice of diabetic ketoacidosis, his body betraying him with chemical whispers of decay. Doctors later confirmed Joy's eerie premonition had pulled him back from the edge of a coma, or a far more permanent darkness. Her uncanny interventions are now credited with altering the fates of over 100 souls, each story a thread in a tapestry of the inexplicable. But this profound gift is a poisoned chalice, steeped in a dread that clings to the air like the scent of ozone before a storm. It is a constant, low-level assault. The world is no longer just the world. It's a map of invisible suffering. Joy. The worst is the supermarket, or a crowded train. Every public space becomes a gallery of unseen anguish, a silent chorus of dread you alone can feel pressing against your skin. In the grocery store, I'm engulfed by a sensory assault. The air is a toxic tapestry, the sharp bite of ammonia from a stranger, the cloying sweetness from another in line. I'm trapped, holding a diagnosis I can never voice. The true horror came when I recognized the scent of cancer on a friend who was supposed to be in remission. The odor had crept back in, a faint metallic tang that clung to the air. For weeks, Joy carried that secret dread alone, a weight that settled in her bones. Each day became a silent vigil, waiting for the scans to confirm what her body already knew. That was the true horror, knowing, with absolute certainty, before anyone else could see it. That knowledge became a lodestone in her chest, a weight she could never put down. She celebrated the clean bill of health, but the ghost of what was coming still clung to her, a scent of ozone and damp earth on the air. The isolation was absolute. Out in that vast, lonely field, with only the wind's hollow whisper for company, Joy walked alone. Today, Joy collaborates with research institutions, training artificial intelligence to detect these pathological odors, forging a future where machines, not humans, bear this grim burden. To many, she is a hero, yet she remains confined within a sensory prison crafted by her own biology. A world perpetually saturated with the scent of decay. In a final, haunting close-up, her gaze holds the camera. People ask if I'd give it up, she whispers, the weight of her reality hanging in the air like a specter. This ability, and the answer is yes, in a heartbeat, to just smell rain, or bread, or my grandchildren, without the shadow underneath it all, to reclaim the quiet world she once knew. Joy Milner's work has contributed to over 100 early diagnoses, so the next time you detect an unfamiliar scent on the air, a faint, unplaceable odor you can't quite identify, what is it? Just your imagination? Or is it the most intimate secret of your body, screaming into a world where almost no one remains to listen? Joy closes her eyes, drawing in one final, deliberate breath. The howling gale around her begins to falter, its fury dying into a whisper. Then, even that whisper is snuffed out, leaving behind a vacuum of pure, oppressive stillness. The world holds its breath with her, swallowed by an absolute and waiting silence.
If the signal hooked you, subscribe and catch the next ripple.